The year is 2121. The Second Robot War has ended in a Pyrrhic victory for humanity and an uneasy, eerie peace. Few are left, and nature is slowly reclaiming what she sees as rightfully hers. The oil reserves have long since run dry. Internal combustion engines are no longer viable. Sun, wind and waves are providing most of the electricity. Cars are scarce. Most see them merely as transport. But there is a band of people for whom a Porsche, Ferrari or Bentley will never be solely utilitarian. They are the Everrati. Although it pains them to strip flat 6 and V12 hearts from icons, supplanting their innards with batteries and electric motors, at least things like this 964 can still move. Hidden away on an old military compound left over from the Battle of Windows 21, it is a closely guarded treasure.
It's mostly deserted around here. You do have to keep an eye out for androids. Turns out they dream of electric cars, not sheep. The question is, in a world where you cannot have an internal combustion engine, is there any point in having a classic car like this? Of course, you've got the looks. I mean, it is a stunning looking thing. Still this nicely still recognisably 964, but with some subtle updates.
You'll no doubt have noticed the 993 wing mirrors and door handles, but in fact the whole body is taken back to bare metal and then wider arches are fitted along with a new bonnet and doors, all in carbon fibre. This helps to keep the weight down to around 1400 kilos, which is actually slightly lighter than the original figure for the Tiptronic that this was born from.
Then there's the size of this. I mean, it's nicely small as you'd expect. We've still got the upright screen here. You get all those cues that you would expect from an old 911. In order to convert this, you've got battery packs in the front and battery packs in the rear, and the weight distribution is 60-40 rear front, so it's still a very 911 weight distribution, and I like that. It's not totally 911 because in fact the battery packs are sort of further inboard of the rear axle, so it's more Cayman probably in terms of its weight distribution, but there's definitely a bit of 911 about it. And actually one of the things I really like about this is this has got Everrati's optional suspension on it. So it's a tractive suspension system, and down here you can switch it basically however you want. So you've got front, rear and pitch and roll that you can change between 5 different settings for each of them. In a car where the drivetrain really doesn't give you many options, this certainly does. I've really enjoyed actually playing around with this, adjusting the balance. My preferred setting's been, well, stiffer at the front, a bit softer at the rear, because that just gives you more of that 911 feel. You get to really sort of play with the front end. This car is on pretty big tyres, front and rear, and it's Cup 2s, so you have to be going relatively quickly to overcome just all the grip that's available. To that extent, I think I'd probably prefer, I don't know, I'd like to try an old 911 with skinnier tyres, just to sort of, because then you get all the enjoyment from the handling. The steering is pretty heavy on this, and initially it feels like there is sort of, well, it feels like they've mistaken weight for feel, but as you get quicker, that's when you really do get a nice sense of how the tyres are loading. And I think it's just because this has got such big tyres that actually you need the speed to sort of overcome the sort of the fundamental grip, I suppose, and actually then get that feedback, get them working, get the chassis moving around a little. Of course, if why you like cars like this is because of performance, then, well, this certainly delivers.
With 500 brake horsepower and 369 pounds-foot of torque, that's respectively the same and slightly more than in the latest 992 GT3, plus oodles of traction from the 295 section rear tyres and Quaife limited slip diff, it will do 0 to 60 miles an hour in
under 4 seconds. Certainly quick enough. That's actually still just on the comfortable side as well. It's quick enough to give you a bit of a thrill. but doesn't give you that sort of, oh, I've lost my stomach kind of feeling, which is quite nice. The braking on this is interesting because you slow it down a bit. At lower speeds, you've got very much a one pedal sort of operation, so around town you can use it like that. But then as you get faster, it relies much more on a normal braking system because you don't really want that one pedal, certainly in this car where you still have got a very much 911 balance.
The regen and throttle mappings are all in ongoing development to give owners more options, such as a race mode or even an economy mode. Talking of which, with a 53 kWh battery, it has a claimed range of around 150 miles, and it will charge it up to 100 kilowatts.
The interior to this, it's nice. This is still a prototype, and certainly I think there are some sort of trim things that you'd like to see neatened up, given how much money you're going to pay for one of these. Having said that, I like the fact they've sort of kept the layout of all the dials here, but then, well, they're all reading different things to what you'd expect, basically, apart from the clock up here.
Overall, it's a little hard to judge because this is a prototype of a £250,000 conversion, and some bits are clearly a work in progress.
One of the things I'm not quite sure about is this lever down here, which you use to select, well, neutral, drive or reverse. I like the fact that it's there because it's much easier than buttons, for example, but yes, it's just not quite as solid as you'd expect, given that this is a Porsche. I think it would be nicer if it was a bit slicker somehow. Given that this is an electric car, it is still quite noisy in here. You get the wind noise, I mean this is gutterless, but you get the tyre noise as well, and there are certainly plonks from the suspension as well. So it's not an entirely quiet experience, which is actually quite reassuring in a way.
What you can do is make use of Everrati's sound generation system, which provides synthesized engine noises. I'm not averse to the general idea, but in this form it sounds too fake to me, and just reminds me that there is an absence with an Everrati.
There's no denying that you are missing a large part of the character from a car like this. There's no getting away from it. I'm not about to say that I would rather have this than a normal 964 with a lovely flat 6 in the back. I suppose the analogy I've been thinking of is with food. Imagine, well, you could get fantastic food in a packet that tasted wonderful, smelt amazing as you opened it up, but there was just no texture to it.
Think of Willy Wonka's chewing gum. Very clever, not unpleasant, yet not quite right somehow.
But equally, I do still get enjoyment from driving a car through a corner like that, feeling the front end, feeling the rear, all its traction. If I can't have an internal combustion engine, I still want to drive. And I think I'd rather do it in something like this.
To me, what this 964 by Everrati highlights is that with EV drivetrains being so one-dimensional, even more attention needs to be paid to the other parts of a sports car that are capable of providing character. Of course, at the moment, we don't live in gated, brutalist compounds in a post-apocalyptic world. We live here, in 2021, where internal combustion engines still exist. But EVs are on the rise, and so the point still stands. I want character in the cars of the future. Oh, and remember, watch out for the robots.